Alright, Division fans, as we all know, the Resident Evil apparel event is now live, or it's been live for a few days now. It's really hard for me to determine because I can't find interest in the game anymore. A lot of that is because there's just nothing going on in the game. We don't know anything about the future of this game or the franchise in general. And to be honest, if the last hurrah for this game is an apparel event, I mean, that's just incredibly disappointing. Apparel events are great for communities that are alive and thriving and that are growing, because it just adds something new, something to just to work for. But if there's no new content, if there's no, mashup of new gear, then you have no interest in it. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to play the game that you've been playing for the past 2 years just to get clothing before you turn the game off completely? It doesn't make sense. It's not satisfactory to me. And I really hope that there's something after this, because if this is how they end it, if this is how they end the franchise, if this is how they end, Division 2, well, to be honest, that's just incredibly disappointing. So what is there for us looter shooter fans to do now? I mean, you can keep grinding at Division 2 with, nothing new coming in, trying to perfect that perfect build. You can hope for the future and that something will come out this year and that it doesn't get pushed back till 2022 or even later. In some sense, a lot of the things in Division, especially the first game, kind of spoiled us to what the genre should be. And a lot of that is based around just the customization, just the amount of options that you have as a player to make a build that feels like your playstyle. And unfortunately, Division 2 kind of, didn't exactly pick up where its predecessor left off, but there was still a good amount of customization, and that was fun. So with the horizon looking a bit sketchy, with a lot of the games that we've currently been playing, pretty much drying up. I mean, Destiny 2, Division 2, Warframe, the looter shooter market, is mostly akin to Anthem and Fallout 76. Just kind of pushed into the closet and forgotten about. So, I mean, we've gone through these games already. But one of the best games of 2019 that most players just didn't even touch. And that's an incredible shame because Remnant from the Ashes got rave reviews. It was an incredible game. And in fact, I'm still playing it now because I just picked up the DLC this month. So this video, the main purpose behind it is to show you a lot of the similarities to the Division 2. So if you are a fan of the looter shooter genre, if there's just something intangible about Division that you can't find in other games, maybe Remnant can offer you a small slice of that. It's not obviously the same game, but it does have a lot of similarities that you will love if you loved the Division franchise. Now, to kind of start off the similarities, just looking at the weapons, the armor, the trinkets, obviously, that's a huge part of an RPG or at least of a looter shooter, just the amount of customization you can have. Remnant has plenty of customization. You've got your handguns, you've got your long guns, you've got your melee weapons. And, that's kind of reminiscent of the Division, your 3-weapon selection. Another similarity is just that there is a wide variety of different weapon types to build around. So if you wanted to be a sniper build, if you wanted to be an up-close shotgun build, if you wanted to be a pistol build, or, just any sort of weird little niche in the RPG market, you can dive into that, and that's a lot of fun. And, unlike a lot of looter shooter games, the aspect of combining, melee and gunplay, doesn't always work very well. But in Remnant, it feels really good. You don't have to use melee at all if you don't want to. You can just use it to break open crates. But if you actually want to make a melee build, you really can, and it'll be very effective. And this is because a lot of the armor and the trinket pieces go very well together. So you can create a lot of different builds. If you wanted to be a melee build, if you wanted to be a vampire build, if you wanted to be a skill build, there's even the Seeker Mine turret combo that you can actually basically recreate. There's also, if you were a fan of Division 1, where you had the old school turret, and whenever you did skill damage, it could heal you. You can actually use that combo in Remnant from the Ashes. So you could use a turret, self-healing build. And a lot of this just has to do with the fact that based on the armor system, having piece bonuses. So everything in the armor category is basically a set. So you can have 3 of a piece, or you can have 1 of a piece. You can get specific bonuses based on what you actually want to build. And even a little bit of a bonus has a remarkable effect in Remnant. Where in Division, you basically have to wholeheartedly invest into, like 1 or 2 stats to be effective. In Remnant, you can mix and match to your heart's content and feel good about it. And this is a large part due to the fact that the trinkets, the necklaces and the rings, they do a great job of providing a specific boost to your character. So if you wanted to deal a lot of status effect damage, if you wanted to deal a lot of weak spot damage, if you wanted to deal, just ranged damage in general or melee damage in general, if you wanted to, deal more healing, if you wanted to be able to move a little bit faster, roll faster, dodge faster, all of these aspects can be upgraded on your character by just selecting a few of these things. So again, you can build whatever you want to fit your playstyle. Plus, the skills, or at least as they're called in this game, the weapon mods, have a lot more build diversity to them than Division 2 does. And what I mean by this is, there's healing skills, there's buff skills, there's damage skills, there's status effect skills. Everything for any type of playstyle, you could have something for you. So if you just wanted to be a basic gun build, you could have a skill that increases the damage that you do with ranged attacks. You can increase your crit chance. You could increase your crit damage. Or you could invest into defensive-based mods, allowing you to take a little bit more damage or distract enemies. So there's plenty of options to enhance your playstyle and to, of course, just accommodate the different scenarios that you're going to encounter. Obviously, this game is heavily dependent on the boss fights. I mean, that's just an amazing thing. The boss fights are something to remember in this game. But a lot of the bosses have their own intricacies, a lot of their own, details that you might want to spec into a certain style of play just to, fight them, to basically be more effective. You could just go through with your regular build, whatever you want. But if you wanted to make the boss fight a little bit easier, or if you just were struggling with the boss fight, there's probably a certain layout or probably a certain, build style that might be more effective that you could invest into to just make it better for you. Now, like I was saying, you have the turret mod Seeker combo, which, plays exactly like you would expect from the Division. You have a skill that goes out and explodes and a skill that sits there and shoots enemies. But there's plenty of variety there. You've got Blink Token, which allows you to teleport, past the enemies or into the enemies if you're a melee character. You've got Blizzard AoE type abilities. You've got Breath of the Desert, which is, just a normal seeking damage type ability. You've got Cold Spear, which just fires a blast that can actually, cool down or freeze enemies, making them a little bit slower, making them attack slower. You've got abilities like Flicker Cloak, which provide you with damage resistance. And, Fan of Knives, which can bleed enemies. Explosive Shot, which can basically just deal a small explosion that deals high damage and just can pretty much destroy most enemies. But there's a huge variety here. Unlike the Division where, everything kind of repeats, the patterns are kind of very similar, a lot of these different weapon mods all have their different uses, and that's wonderful. There's not something that's like, oh, well, this is exactly the same thing as something else. Why am I going to use it? There's generally a reason to use something else over something else. Now, another aspect of the game that's going to feel very familiar to Division 2 fans is just the trait system. Now, this pretty much plays exactly like the Shade Watch from Division 2. So you've got a bunch of different traits that you can invest into as you gain experience. So every time you reach an experience cap, you get an additional trait point that you can invest however you want. You've got things that provide additional armor, additional crit chance, additional crit damage, additional melee damage, increase your revive speed. I mean, there's just a huge variety of different traits that you can find throughout the game to invest into. And this also just enhances further any sort of build that you want to create. And there's no cap on it, so you can basically just eventually max out everything. And that's a nice long grind, so if you are in the game because you want to grind stuff, this will provide you with plenty of hours of opportunity for that. But one of the coolest factor about this trait system is that these aren't just given to you. You don't just get a block of things that you can invest into, and then after 1,000 shade levels, you have it fully maxed out. These are things that you actually have to do certain things to earn them. So for example, you might have to get 100 kills with explosive damage, or you might have to do a special random event to earn a trait. Maybe you have to rescue something or kill something, or, defeat this boss or defeat that boss, or defeat the boss in a special way. There's different things that unlock these traits for you. And that's fun because, you don't always know how to unlock everything. And I mean, if you're the type of player who just wants to look everything up, I mean, it's still going to be fun trying to, unlock all these things. But if you're the person who wants to kind of discover a lot of these things on your own, natively, without the help of the internet or Wikipedia or whatever, it offers you plenty of ability to do that. There's a lot of fun ways to just discover stuff in this game without looking it up. And that's a big portion of the fun. Now, of course, one of the things that Division 1 fans have kind of complained about with Division 2 is just the lack of different modes. Well, Remnant from the Ashes kind of brings back a few of them. Now, the main campaign itself is pretty similar to Underground. Actually, the entire game is very similar, has a similar basis to Underground. But when I compare these to Underground, what I mean is that Underground, obviously, if you've played it, was randomly generated. It wasn't completely random, but it had, tile sets that would interlock together and create a new experience for you. Well, the entire game itself is based around different tile sets. So you could complete the entire campaign and maybe only discover, 30% of the entire content. So you would need to go into, the campaign again, or possibly go into adventure mode, which gives you just the ability to kind of hone in on the things that you might have missed. So you can recreate a small section of the world to go through real quick, and then, reset it and go through it again, and then again and again, just to basically figure out everything that you've missed. And of course, one of the things that's probably the most requested from Division 1 fans is just survival mode. Now, Remnant from the Ashes survival mode is pretty fun. I mean, it's not for everyone, but when you consider the fact that the base game is a lot like the style of Underground, and the fact that it has these random selected tiles, the addition of survival into that kind of combines those two great modes from Division 1 and allows for a very enjoyable play, because you go into it trying to do your best to just stay alive, fight these enemies, gain experience, gain power, build your character loadout, because you don't really start with anything. You start with a little bit of money to buy some stuff at the initial base, but then after that you kind of have to scavenge everything else. So combining Underground and survival in this way definitely feels good and feels fresh. And if you have friends that you play with, I mean, these modes can be a lot of fun, and they can also be pretty stressful. I mean, stressful in the way that the Dark Zone was. So if you're not really a PvP player, but you want that kind of edginess to your PvE experience, I highly recommend survival mode. Now, for those of you actually interested in the survival mode, what you end up having here is basically a generic hub that you start off in, and you get a little bit of money to just kind of assist your playstyle. So there might be some random items there that you want to use, and of course it's all just luck based or random. So you might not get these same items available every time, and in fact you might hardly ever see the items that you really want. But I mean, that's kind of part of the fun, struggling to get your build together, struggling to get a build together, and just be effective in the game. Now, the one reason that I actually like this survival mode a lot is there are rewards tied to it. The way that these rewards are earned are based on boss kills. So even if you just manage to only kill one boss through a survival run, you will eventually earn the rewards tied to survival. So I'm not exactly sure where the bars are at, but it's something like, once you kill 10 bosses, you get one reward. Once you kill 25, you get another reward. 50, you get another reward. Something like that. But I'm pretty sure that the highest tier reward is after 100 boss kills. So, if you just play enough survival, eventually you will get the rewards. No RNG required. Now, if you were a fan of Division 2's hardcore mode, Remnant from the Ashes also has you covered. Now, all you have to do is just create a new character and then make them a hardcore character. It's pretty simple, but of course, this character, only gets one life. If you die, you lose everything. Now, what I would highly recommend is getting a lot of the account-bound items before you create a hardcore character. So, for example, all of the survival items are account-bound. So if you complete all the survival items, then all those items that you earned will be able to carry over to your hardcore character and give you a little bit of a boost. Now, I'm not going to lie. playing through hardcore is rather stressful. So if you like that feeling of the first time, going into the Dark Zone in Division 1, or, just that first month of the Division 1 Dark Zone, Remnant kind of recreates that similar feeling where you're just like skulking around, unsure what to do. You're sneaking around, trying not to get seen, trying not to get killed, and it's pretty stressful. So if you enjoy that, I really think you're going to enjoy this hardcore mode. But again, like survival mode, this also has unique rewards tied to it. So you can enter the campaigns through hardcore mode, or you could also enter adventure mode through the hardcore mode. And the way that you earn those account rewards are through, killing the bosses in the game, and of course just beating the campaigns in the game. So if you beat the DLC campaign, you get an item. If you beat the base campaign, you get an item. If you beat both of them, you get an additional item. If you beat, the bosses throughout the game, you will again get additional account-bound items. So you can use those, however you see fit. If you want to help your friends through, after you convince them to get the game, you can, of course, create a new character and have these items with you. So, that's just a very fun way to just continue playing the game. And honestly, I think that's one of the greatest assets of the game. Just going through the game again with a new player. Because their reaction to things can be hilarious at times. There's some bosses that just kind of come at you, surprise the crap out of you, and you can definitely hear it in the reaction of your friend. Just the surprise, the shock, the what the F is this, the what the hell is going on. Those reactions are great, they're hilarious, and they're just fun. There's something that's missing from the Division. Running through the Division with a new player, a lot of the times I wouldn't get, fun, positive reactions like that from bosses. The bosses are just named regular people. There's nothing special about them. There's nothing special about what they do. And, the only time we really get this feeling is when you encounter a hunter for the first time. And a lot of the boss fights are exactly like that. If you remember the feeling of encountering a hunter for the first time, that's pretty much every boss fight. Those moments are what games are about. And unfortunately, the Division missed out on a lot of those moments. Now, honestly, I really do hope you give this game a shot. I don't normally say, I really want you guys to play this game. It's obviously, you're an adult, you can decide your own things. But this game definitely needs more attention. This game needs more people supporting the company. And the reason I say this is because Gunfire Games is a studio of 60 or 70 people. And they created this amazing experience. Massive is a studio of 650 people. They're 10 times bigger than Gunfire Games. Division does not seem like a studio with 10 times more people created it. And a lot of this is just based on the fact that, we support AAA games blindly. A lot of people bought Division 2 just because. And, we see this pattern over and over again in the game industry where people are constantly complaining about, the games that are being, released are just not good. They're not finished. They feel like a rushed, greedy money grab. And this is part of the downfall of good gaming. And to further back this up, by not supporting companies that are actually creating good games, these smaller non-AAA studios, these almost indie level studios, these from the ground up without, mass corporate support, supporting these games matters. Supporting these games is how you get better games. Because when the big studios see all the players flocking to something unique, that's when they try to copy it and make their own mark on the genre. This game could definitely redefine a lot of the looter shooter market. But at the end of the day, it's your money. It's you choose to support what you choose to support. I am a huge supporter of small studios that create great games. I love playing those types of games. Those types of games are generally, a lot of my favorites. And of course, I go back to these small studios and constantly look at what they're doing. Because I know what they're capable of producing. I know that they've created this experience that even though it was a studio of 20 people or 30 people, they created such an amazing game with the resources that they had that I want to see what happens in the future. that I want to see them, become even bigger, making even better products. And, just if we keep throwing our money only at the AAA guys, we're never going to see the improvement. We're never going to see the evolution of gaming. We're just going to get the same just polished turds, right? And in a lot of the cases, according to a lot of people, if you look at, like CD Projekt Red, it's not even a polish. It's just a turd. I mean, I like the game, but you can't help but, see the fact that there was just overshadowed by the corporate greed of releasing an unfinished game. And so if you actually feel the same way, if you realize what the support for only AAA studios is doing to the game market, then I really can't see how you could just skip out on a game like this. But either way, guys, I hope you join the Remnant from the Ashes family. I hope you get this game. I hope you give it a shot. Even if you just look it up on the internet, just give it a chance to show you what it has before you, just blindly say, I'm not playing that. Either way, the choice is up to you. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.